Whitlock. He's Marcellus Wiley. That dude.
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome to Speak for Yourself, the most fearless show in sports. Coming up, we'll tell you if all the moves this weekend mean the Dolphins are tanking. And an hour from now, we'll tell you if the Cowboys can learn a few things from the Chargers about how to handle Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes, they
We start today in Houston. All right, the great Johnny Cochran taught us many lessons. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Yeah.
A smart attorney can reduce a mountain of evidence to a pile of rubble. It's a mistake to rush to judgment. All right, this weekend, we all pretty much concluded the Seattle Seahawks fleeced the Houston Texans in the Jadeveon Clowney trade. Clowney is a three-time Pro Bowler. He's a 26-year-old edge rusher. Headed into his prime years, the Seahawks landed Clowney for a third-round draft pick and two marginal players. On top of that, the Texans agreed to pay $7 million of Clowney's $15 million in salary this year. This has to be the most one-sided trade in the history of the NFL. I mean, this is worse than the deal the Pittsburgh Steelers accepted for Antonio Brown. I referenced Brown for a reason. The Steelers let the Raiders have Brown for next to nothing because Brown is a world-class headache who makes it very difficult to create a winning culture. Everyone can see it now after Brown's training camp helmet hoax, hot air balloon, and frostbitten feet. Might Clowney be a different kind of Antonio Brown? When you have Clowney's physical gifts and a team gives you away, that says just as much about Clowney as it does Texans head coach Bill O'Brien. O'Brien is being ridiculed for making the Clowney trade. In the aftermath of owner Robert McNair's death, the Texans organization is a bit chaotic. Houston doesn't have a general manager. O'Brien has capitalized on the power vacuum and is calling the shots. He might be out over his skis. He also might have just unloaded one of the NFL's biggest underachievers. Anybody heard any Texans players chirping about Clowney going to Seattle? You think had Houston unloaded J.J. Watt or DeAndre Hopkins or Deshaun Watson for nothing, we wouldn't have heard major grumblings from the Texans locker room? Clowney has a soft motor. His engine doesn't always start. That's why he's never had a double-digit sack season despite playing opposite J.J. Watt. That's why he had 3 sacks in his final season in South Carolina. The game has always come far too easy for Clowney. He's in the discussion for the most physically gifted football player of all time. But too much talent is a curse. Talent is the enemy of adversity, and adversity is the iron that sharpens iron. Michael Jordan believes he got cut from his high school basketball team. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. J.J. Watt walked on at Wisconsin. Never been a day that Clowney wasn't coveted and pampered. My gut says the Texans improved this weekend. The price for trading for Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills was a bit steep, 2 first-round picks, but no one can argue Tunsil and Stills won't help immediately. Deshaun Watson took a beating last season behind a weak offensive line. Tunsil at left tackle will be a huge upgrade. Stills will be a solid complement to Hopkins at receiver. Bill O'Brien is playing his bust hand. He's in win-now mode because that's his only option for survival. Let's don't rush to judgment. It just might work. All right, joining the desk now are Fox Sports NFL analyst LeVar Arrington and TJ Houshmandzadeh. Marcellus,
Yes.
you have a problem with Bill O'Brien dumping Jadeveon Clowney.
I don't. You have to keep it in totality, even though we're going to isolate the variable and talk about just Jadeveon Clowney. But his measurables can be replaced. Whatever you think of him, 9.5 sacks, never a double-digit season as you spoke of, you can replace those measurables because, one, his contract will be up at the end of the year. And we're talking about a guy who's owed $15 million this year, and there's going to be $18, $20 million north going forward for a franchise pass rusher. Is that necessary for this Texans team to get over the hump? Remember, in the playoffs last year, Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt, neutralized by who? Probably the best offensive line we know in the game, in the Indianapolis Colts. And if you start to summarize what that looked like last year, do we need help on the offensive line? Yes. Do we need help at the receiver position? DeAndre Hopkins hurt in that same game. We can't get over the hump. We lose by 2 possessions. Yes. We have a lot of needs outside of just a redundancy of pass rush. This is a team that was 11th ranked last year getting after the quarterback, but dead last in terms of hits on their own quarterback. So I just think that the equation changed where, are we really going to pay Jadeveon Clowney $20 million? No. So if we're not, why are we going to hold on to this instead of trying to get maximized value? So that's what they did. I love the move in the sense of this is a forward-thinking move that may even show dividends presently.
Do I have a problem with it? Yes and no. And I'm gonna explain this.
Please do.
When you lose a free agent like Jadeveon Clowney, say they don't franchise him, you're gonna get a compensatory third-round pick anyway. You're gonna get that anyway. So you trade him to Seattle for a third-round pick that you're going to get anyway if you don't even franchise him, and you pay $7 million of his salary. That makes no sense. If you didn't want him, just let him go. So you're basically paying $7 million for Markevious Mingo and Jacob Martin that you got in the deal, who probably were going to be released anyway. So if you didn't want Jadeveon Clowney, all you had to do was rescind his franchise tender before July 15th, I believe.
Donut?
Donuts.
Yeah.
Close to what we got in our game on Friday. I can relate, all right? Let's see. Whitney Merciless. Do we know who he is?
Yes.
He played on the game. He played on the team.
Fighting the lineup.
He put up an amazing 4 for the Houston Texans.
He's not bad, though.
No, he's nice.
He's not
He
bad.
put up an amazing 4. He's nice. He's not bad. He put up a
Rotation.
staggering 4 sacks. Whit.
Yep.
Okay. Jadeveon Clowney last season, 9 sacks. All right. Now, you had a guy by the name of Covington that isn't there anymore. He put up 3.5 sacks. If you put all 3 of those guys together, you have 7.5 sacks, right? 9 sacks, 1 player. J.J. Watt has 16 sacks. This says to me, first of all, the answer is I don't have a problem with him trying to build the team the way he wants to build the team. That's his prerogative. The idea of we improved our team and you're basing it off of something that had nothing to do with Jadeveon Clowney. You brought in a receiver that caused issues. We're talking about Jadeveon being the Antonio Brown in this situation. Kenny Stills could be the Antonio Brown in this situation going to the Texans. And you bring in a lineman that's great. You improve your line. You
got a quarterback that needs better protection.
All right,
man. Don't
but
do that.
that quarterback better be able to put up points, because when you lose that type of production from a player and you do not replace it, which is the point I was getting at, 7 sacks, J.J. Watt is going to feel the effects of this. That secondary is going to feel the effects of this. That defense is going to feel the effects of this.
Answer my question on this.
Go ahead.
Seriously. When somebody gives away something that allegedly has that kind of value,
Yep.
don't you for a second go, damn, I wonder, maybe it's not as valuable as we thought. Don't you again, when you see somebody break up with the hottest girl in school, don't you go, oh man, I wonder.
Where I will agree with you. I had a CL 500 when I got drafted.
That's my dog.
It was kind of the same color. It's like Almadine color.
What, dark?
Beautiful. peanut butter.
You talking about this?
Your suit. Dang,
It's
bro,
just black.
yeah, I can dig it.
You got a black
I was talking about the suit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it always had to go into the shop. Always. But I liked the car so much that I kept dealing with it.
That's
When
your
I got,
mistake.
hold on. When I got to the point of where I realized that this car was basically like a lemon, I got rid of it. But when I got rid of it, I replaced it. I didn't just get rid of it and just didn't have a car. I got rid of the car and I replaced it. That is the problem that I have here. It's not that you got rid of the car that you didn't feel was running the way that you wanted it to run.
You get for a third-round pick, and you would have got that. You would have received.
You did not replace the production that you've lost by getting rid of it. And that's the biggest issue.
I won't torture your example, but one, if you add up the contracts, based on what you're replacing it with, is going to be a lesser number you're paying as a franchise than the one that you anticipate, which is at $15 million now. Going forward is going to be.
But you're paying $7 million of that.
No, I understand that, but you still, if you add up all his backup players, it still won't add up to one Jadeveon Clowney. Here's the biggest issue, I think.
Pro Bowler.
3-time Pro Bowler. Respect. Here's the biggest issue.
Allegedly.
But the Pro Bowl is watered down now, but go ahead.
Yeah, but here's the biggest issue. You said J.J. Watt's going to feel the effect of Jadeveon Clowney.
Sure.
Here's what they're summarizing. Why didn't Jadeveon Clowney feel the positive effects of a J.J. Watt. And trust me, you've been here and I've been here. When there was a Bruce Smith on the other side, when there was a Daryl Talley, Cornelius Bennett, whoever you want to name, when there was some legit dudes on a Bryce Pop, when they were on
Bryce
that side,
Pop.
whoa, hand technician.
Yes.
When they were over there, guess what? I was like,
One-on-one.
No one cares about me
There's
over
a back.
here. And
Right.
Jadeveon Clowney didn't maximize that. So if you're upstairs, you have to look at that as a war.
I will not disagree with that.
There we go.
That's a great point. And I don't think you could have tortured that example because I thought it was a fine and well thought out example to begin with. But with that being said, you still have not replaced the production. And that's the
And
issue.
you also have just now given opportunities. Look, when Bruce got cut, they were like, we ain't replaced the
but how
production.
much time do you
but
have?
all of a sudden, you give me an opportunity, there's 10.5 sacks for you right there.
Put in his Whitlock that this could be him playing a bust hand. So what we're saying is that this could be a season in which if he does not achieve at a certain level, he could possibly lose his job.
There's no question about it. He will.
You got to replace that production, whether you
They
like
must
it or
think
not.
they have a replacement.
You
in
got
the office, they wouldn't
opportunity.
have done it.
Who's going to replace
When
it?
TJ, how did you get in the
Come on,
game?
man. You can't.
Opportunity.
Come on.
And who got hurt?
Peter Ward.
So you sitting there, and Peter Ward goes down, you going to throw the season away, or you going to say, it's his turn? And you got to let that play out.
I love P-Dub.
And again, I know these moves may not have been connected, but to me, what Bill O'Brien is saying here is like, we're gonna put our eggs in Deshaun Watson's basket.
Right.
We have been putting our eggs in J.J. Watt and the defensive side of the ball. We're now gonna flip the script and go to this other side of the ball. What we don't want to do is end up in an Andrew Luck type situation with Deshaun Watson where we never provided him the right offensive line. We never provided him the protection. They had to, this kid had to take a bus to a game because his shoulder body was so banged up he couldn't fly. And so to me, when I look back, and again, I agree with TJ, I'm not sure if this was handled properly, the trade. Bill O'Brien might be out over his skis as a general manager. But I just look at Clowney and go, man, there must be a problem here if they're giving him away like this. And then I like the move of like, hey, man, let's ride Deshaun Watson. Let's give him another receiver to go along with Hopkins and William Fuller, and let's try to provide him some pass protection. We don't want this guy beaten up the way Andrew Luck was. That's not a bad play because to me, to Marcellus's point, if you're this kind of talented freak, playing opposite J.J. Watt, and the best you can do is 9.5 sacks?
You know what's crazy about that? Seattle basically got him for free. Because if Seattle doesn't re-sign him, I'm sitting here thinking, guess what they get? They're going to receive a third-round compensatory pick. That's what Seattle will get now if they don't re-sign him. So they're basically paying $9 million. Hopefully he can give them production.
I don't have a problem with the reasoning. I have a problem with replacing the production. And again, if you're looking at your defense, I want my offense to have every opportunity to be successful. No problem there.
That will happen.
But if you do not, whether you guys respect the 9 sacks or not, the guy made a difference as a player on that defensive unit and on that defensive front. If you're not replacing, that is one of the most prime positions. That is high-end real estate to be a
But it's
defensive
redundancy.
end.
That redundancy at the position versus what is going to be the best way to focus our efforts and our resources to get over this hump. Their hump wasn't the fact that they didn't have enough defensive production or pass rush. The fact is they couldn't protect their own
But that
passer.
may not
They lost
show.
by 2 possessions to a coach team that had the best offensive line.
But you might have been closer having him on your defensive line. You may slide back a little bit not having him. And believe you me, that may not necessarily be based off of just a statistical stat line on the guy that they just
I
got
would
rid
agree.
of.
I'm not going with stats. I'm going with the fact they just gave up one of the most talented players to ever hit the NFL. To me, they just sold Seattle a lemon. And look, Seattle won't complain about buying that lemon because they bought it cheap. But I think they bought a lemon. All right, stick around. Later on, we'll give you our approval ratings for Jadeveon Clowney, and Uncle Jimmy will tell us what he thinks of the newest Seahawk. And jump on Twitter right now to vote on what you think Clowney's approval rating should be. We'll reveal the results later in the show. Also coming up, are all the Dolphins' moves this weekend a sign they're already giving up on the season? We get into that next. And don't forget to check us out on the Fox Sports Channel on SiriusXM.